All right, welcome back. So I'm noticing my noise floor in the output is kind of okay. Well, that looks good. But anyways, I'm back in VR. I did a video before that showed my workflow when it comes to code. I'm a couch potato with my VR headset on. I don't have to crane my neck. I just literally just lay back in a really comfortable position. I don't even have to use my keyboard and mouse because with autocomplete and stuff like that, it's really optional a lot of the time. The other thing, I'm sure people watching this would be yelling at their screen, their screen when they see me using VS Code with GitHub Copilot. I'm sure a lot of people are yelling at the screen, being like, "You fool! Cursor is so much better in every way." So I did download Cursor. Um, I might be trying to switch to Cursor. I'm not really I don't know. So at some point I might consider switching to Cursor, but that's not what this video is about. This is going to be another video working on the code, but it's going to be quite a bit different. I do have a number of changes I want to make. I want to add more features, and then I want to fix bugs. But really, I think the best way for me to go about adding features and fixing bugs is to just learn what the code is doing. So what I want to do in this video, and I think this is basically uh, like the future. Like this is what a lot of programmers should be doing with ChatGPT. I'm going to go through all 681 lines, and I'm just going to have a conversation line by line with ChatGPT and check my understanding and just talk to it about the code. So I think this will be a huge eye-opening exercise, and it allowed me uh, to be like a real senior developer because like eventually it would be great if ChatGPT could act as a more senior developer or director and like do things. But I think even with the latest release of O4 Mini High, it still leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to just raw intellect and like knowing what it doesn't know and like making the right decisions. We can see the browser metronome I have is quite sophisticated, but it's still buggy as all hell. It still leaves a bit to be desired, and I think the only way to really ensure that it's bug free is if I combine my own intellect and kind of get on the same page as on this code. All right, so I have to get myself up to speed and really understand what this code is doing. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you?
I'm doing great. So I'm making a YouTube video. I'm already about 4 minutes in because I just kind of rant. But anyways, what I'm gonna do is so first do you remember that we're working on writing a metronome together?
Absolutely. I remember that metronome project. You were focusing on making it super precise with features like tempo changes and polyrhythms. What part of the metronome are you planning to highlight in your video?
So what I want to do is basically go through the code we have so far line by line, and I want to have I just want to have a discussion with you in my video, and I want to basically learn as much as I can about the code we have so far because there's quite a few bugs. So I feel like in order to really work out the bugs, because I've tried just like, having you resolve the bugs, and you haven't been able to do that. So I think like to really understand and work out the bugs, like I just need to be brought up to speed with what we have so far.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Going through the code line by line will definitely help you get a deeper understanding and spot any hidden issues. Let's break it down step by step. Do you want to start from the top of the main script, or is there a specific section you'd like to focus on first?
Yeah, let's start from the top of the. Well, there's only one. We're doing this all in one file. Yeah, so we have a file called index.html, and then I have that in a GitHub repo, and I'm using GitHub Pages. So my repo is named github.io. So it's hosted for free at that link there. So yeah, and it's all in one file. So I want to go through line by line. There's about 600 lines in the file. So I want to go through, yeah, there's 681 lines. So I want to go through each of the lines, and I want you to act as like a trainer, a professor, an educator, someone like giving me one-on-one to support to help like bring me up to speed on this project. So basically like a trainer, as if I were like a new employee hired onto the project, and you're gonna bring me up to speed.
All right, let's dive in. We'll take it step by step, and I'll explain each part as we go along. We'll start from the top of your index.html file and work our way down, making sure everything is clear. If there's anything you want to dive deeper into or any part that seems confusing, just let me know and we'll break it down even further.
Okay, and you don't necessarily have to like give a full explanation. What I'm gonna do is first I'm gonna read it to you. I'll probably read it character by character, as much as I can, and I'll kind of tell you what I think it means, and I want you to like assess my understanding and like fill in any gaps and give me like a general sense, like do I get it, or am I off base? And I'll tell you if I read a line where like I absolutely don't understand what it's doing.
That sounds like a solid plan. I'll listen to your interpretation and then help clarify or expand on anything that might need more detail. This way, you'll get a good gauge of your understanding and we can smooth out any rough edges. Ready when you are.
All right, let's start with line number one. So what we have is open chevron, exclamation point, then in all uppercase it says doc type, then a space, then lowercase HTML, then a closed chevron.
Great start. So that first line, exclamation point doc type HTML, is a declaration that tells the web browser the type of document it's dealing with. In this case, it specifies that the document is HTML5. It's essentially the foundation that ensures the browser interprets the page correctly. So you're on the right track.
Cool. So let's start here then, because I handed this out to other people, and I got feedback already that it wasn't working on someone's phone. So I think they were using an Apple phone. I'm not sure, but they couldn't get the audio to play.
Gotcha. Audio issues on certain devices, especially iPhones, can be pretty common. It might be related to how the browser handles audio playback or user interaction requirements. We'll definitely want to check how the audio context is initialized and if there's a user gesture needed to start playback. We can dive into that once we get to the audio setup portion of your code.
Okay, but this line, we wouldn't modify this line to do anything with that?
Right, the doc type HTML line itself won't impact audio playback. It's just for telling the browser that the document is HTML5. The audio issue will likely be tackled in the JavaScript section where the audio context and event listeners are set up.
All right, so line two, open chevron, lowercase HTML, space, lowercase lang, equal sign, quote, en, quote, close chevron.
Perfect. That line is the opening HTML tag, which defines the root of your HTML document. The lang equals n attribute specifies that the language of the document is English. This helps with accessibility and SEO, as it lets browsers and assistive technologies know the primary language of the page. So this line is more about setting up the document's environment and making it user-friendly.
Okay, so what other options could I use there besides lang? I notice in VS Code when I hover over that HTML, it says the HTML element represents the root of an HTML document, and then I can open an MDN reference. If I open that MDN reference, can I see like lang and like all the things I can put in there?
Exactly. Opening that MDN reference in VS Code will show you all the attributes you can use with the HTML element. Besides lang, some common attributes include dir for text direction, like LTR for left to right or RTL for right to left languages, and class or ID if you need to apply styles or scripts at the root level. It's a handy way to explore all the available options and best practices for the HTML element.
Okay. Yeah, I see the page. The so this is a developer.mozilla.org page. And I see lang oh, it looks like version is an attribute. XMLNS is an attribute. Looks like accessibility. They have a so they mention Lang. I don't see them mentioning the other stuff though on here.
Yeah, the MDN page can sometimes focus on the most commonly used attributes. The version attribute is more relevant for older XHTML documents, and XMLNS is for XML namespaces, which you usually won't need in a standard HTML5 document. If you're looking for other attributes like dir, you might need to browse through related sections or check examples. But for a basic HTML document, lang and sometimes dir are the primary attributes you'll set on the HTML tag.
All right, and then I see a link to html.spec.whatwg.org, and this was called a specification. So if I click on that, then I get to this specification. What would I need this documentation for?
The HTML specification is essentially the official detailed guide to how HTML works. It's maintained by the WhatWG and contains the formal.
Oh, can you hear me? So this happens sometimes with ChatGPT. It's not a big deal. It just like poops out, so you just uh, restart it. You can still use the same model. And we're back. Hey, can you hear me now?
Yup, I can hear you loud and clear. What's up?
We're working through this code line by line. You're trying to bring me up to speed to so that I understand this better, so that we can work together more seamlessly to resolve bugs.
Exactly. We're going through each line so you get a solid grasp of what everything does. That way, you'll have a clearer picture of how the code works, and we can tackle those bugs more effectively together. Ready to move on to the next part?
Yeah, so the next part says open chevron, lowercase HEAD, close chevron.
Great. The head element is the container for all the metadata and other important information about the document. Inside the head section, you'll typically find things like the title of the page, links to style sheets, meta tags for character sets and viewport settings, and scripts that need to load before the page is rendered. It sets up the environment before the content in the body is displayed.
It sets up the environment in the what before the what is what?
Sure, the head section sets up the environment before the content in the body section is displayed. In other words, it includes everything the browser needs to know, like the page title, linked style sheets, and meta information before it starts rendering the visible part of the page, which is defined in the body section.
Oh, well, do you need like shit in there to play the music on time?
To get the music playing on time, most of the heavy lifting will happen in the body section and within your JavaScript code. The head section might include links to external scripts or libraries that help manage audio, but the actual timing and playback logic will be handled in the script that runs in the body. So the head sets the stage, but the real action for timing and audio playback happens in the main part of the document.
Okay, yeah, I have another thing I'm working on because I want to display the like the actual notation of the rhythms. So I'm using VexFlow from CDN. Oh, you know what? That will belong in the head section. It'll be script source equals and then the CDN. So I'll probably add that to this code at some point.
Exactly, that's a great idea. Including the VexFlow script in the head section from a CDN will let you render musical notation right on the page. That way you can visually display the rhythms alongside the audio. When you're ready, just add the script tag with the VexFlow source in the head, and you'll be able to start integrating notation rendering into your Metronome project.
Right, a content delivery network.
Exactly, a content delivery network. It helps load libraries like VexFlow quickly and efficiently from servers distributed around the world. This way, your users get faster load times and you don't have to host the library yourself. It's super handy for adding functionality without bloating your own server or local files.
All right, so let's do a quick detour and talk about Vex quick.
Sure thing. VexFlow is a powerful JavaScript library for rendering music notation and guitar tablature using HTML5 and SVG. It allows you to programmatically create and display complex music notation right in the browser. It's widely used for web-based music applications because it's flexible and integrates well with other web technologies. Whether you want to show simple rhythms or complex scores, VexFlow has got you covered.
Okay, so I'm noticing score.voice and then score.notes. Is there any way I can make like a percussion note where like it's it has an X through the head because it's not necessarily representing a specific note, like a cymbal crash?
Absolutely. VexFlow supports percussion notation, including notes with an X notehead. You can specify the notehead type when you create a note. For example, you can set the notehead key property to exclamation point X to get that X-shaped notehead. This is commonly used for percussion instruments like hi-hats or cymbals. By tweaking the note properties, you can represent various percussion sounds and rhythms accurately in your notation.
Okay, so would it be exclamation point X slash 4?
That's close. For VexFlow, you typically define the note and then set the notehead type separately. For example, you could create a note with a duration of 4 and then specify the notehead as X using something like note set key style 0, notehead. This approach lets you customize the appearance of the notehead while maintaining the correct rhythmic value so it looks and behaves just like a percussion note.
Oh, hold on a sec. I just want to get this worked out quick. Then we'll go back to being on topic.
No problem at all. Take your time. Once you've got it worked out, we can jump right back to the main topic. Let me know if you need any help with the VexFlow setup or anything else in the meantime.
Yeah, I've worked it. Let me see what. So what did you say that the so it's if so score dot notes. That's what I do, right? Or is it score dot something else for a percussion notation?
No worries. For percussion notation in VexFlow, you generally create a stave note with the desired note properties. For an X notehead, you add a note and then set the notehead type to X. For example, you can do something like this. Constant note is a notable parameter that comes first in VexFlow or any pitch placeholder, duration 2, add modifier new VexFlow annotation 0. This will give you a note with an X notehead perfect for percussion notation. If you're using score.notes to manage your notes, you just add this configured note to that collection. Let me know if you want more detail on any part of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more detail. Hold on a second though. So I've got system.add_stave, then I've got voices, and then I've got score.voice, score.notes, and then I've got dot add time signature.
Got it. So it sounds like you're setting up your system with a stave and then adding voices and notes to that stave. To add a percussion note with an X note head, you'll want to create a stave note with the X note head property and then add it to your score voice. Here's a more detailed example. Create a stave note with an X note head. Constant note is a new VexFlow stave note, keys G4, placeholder pitch, duration 2, set key style, note head, GR, which means X equals X. You can set other styles if needed. Voices push note, then add the voice to the system or formatter as needed. This way you're telling VexFlow to render that note with an X note head, making it look like a percussion note. You can then add this configured note into your score voice and continue building out your percussion stave.
Let me see what I got here. So it says incomplete voice. Voice does not have enough notes.
That error usually means the measure doesn't have the correct number of beats. Each voice in VexFlow needs to have a complete set of notes that match the time signature. So if you're in 4/4 time, each voice needs to sum up to 4 beats. Make sure the duration of all the notes in that voice adds up correctly. If you're adding a single quarter note, duration 4, it might be expecting more notes to fill out the measure. You can either add rests or more notes until the measure is complete. Let me know if you need help adjusting the durations or adding filler rests.
All right, so duration one is that a whole note?
Exactly. A duration of 1 corresponds to a whole note. If you're working in 4/4 time, a single whole note would fill the entire measure. This can help resolve the incomplete voice error if you're just testing a single note. Once that's working, you can add more notes or adjust durations to match the rhythm you want.
That didn't work.
Got it. If the whole note didn't resolve the issue, let's double check a few things. Make sure the voice and the formatter are properly configured. For example, you might need to call voice.setStrict false to allow incomplete measures if you're just experimenting. Also, confirm that the voice is added to the formatter and that the formatter is rendering the notes on the stave. If you want, we can go step by step through the code snippet you're using to pinpoint what's missing.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the code snippet.
Sounds good. Go ahead and share the snippet, and we'll walk through it together to find out what's going on.
Yay! Oh my. Well, never mind. All right. Uh, no, that's not good at all. All right, so I thought that solved it, but it turns out it's not a solution at all. So we set the duration, we used the letter W rather than the number one, and then we rendered that note on the stave. So what I get is not a note with the rendered like that. What I get is a whole note, and then I get the letter X on top of the stave.
Ah, I see what's happening. The annotation X is being treated as a text annotation above the note, not as a notehead. To get an actual X notehead for percussion, you need to use the set key style method or set notehead method to change the notehead type directly. Here's how you can do that. Constant note is a new VexFlow stave note with keys 0, 4 and duration W for the first key, index 0. Note set key style 0, code notehead X black. This way, the notehead itself will appear as an X, which is standard for percussion notation. The set key style method allows you to specify the notehead shape, and notehead X black is the code for an X-shaped notehead. Give that a try and see if it renders the way you want.
You know what? Let's move on from this and get back to our original goal. I just feel like we're way too off in the weeds. You're way too far ahead of myself, and I get I just need to, because I don't even know what like const really means, right? It's like I know a Python variable. Like I assume that it's a variable, but like I know so little about it. Like I'm just set up to fail. Like I'm never gonna be able to figure out what I want to do and do it if I don't know the some of the most simplest basic things about JavaScript.
I get it, and it makes total sense to start with the basics. JavaScript can feel overwhelming at first, especially if you're coming from Python. In JavaScript, const is used to declare a variable whose value won't change. It's like defining a constant. If you need a variable that can change, you'd use let. Once you get comfortable with these basics, you'll find it easier to build on them and tackle bigger projects step by step. We can definitely take it slow and make sure you're comfortable with each concept.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I need to know. So let's continue on. So with the main file index.html, not that other file we were looking at, let's look over line 4. Are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's do it. I'm ready to go through line 4 of your main index.html file with you. Just let me know what it is, and we'll break it down step by step.
All right, so I've got this one indented because it's under head tag, and it's open chevron lowercase meta space charset in lowercase equals quote uppercase ut and f dash 8 end quote and chevron.
Great. This line is a meta tag that specifies the character encoding for the document. Charset equals UTF-8 means that the page uses UTF-8 encoding, which is a universal character set that supports pretty much all the characters and symbols used in any language. It's essential for ensuring your text displays correctly, especially if you have special characters, symbols, or non-English text. This line helps the browser know how to interpret the bytes of the HTML file into readable text.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that because that happens a lot in Python. Like if you're scraping stuff, like you have to set the character set a lot. So I'm pretty comfortable with that.
Awesome, that definitely gives you a solid foundation. Let's move on to the next line or concept you want to explore.
All right, so this is line 5, so it's another meta tag. So open chevron meta space name name equals viewport in quotes, then space, then content equals in quotes width dash device dash width, comma initial dash scale dash one end quote and chevron.
Perfect. This meta tag is crucial for responsive web design. The name equals viewport attribute tells the browser how to control the page's dimensions and scaling. The content attribute here sets two properties. Width device width makes the page's width match the screen's width, ensuring it looks good on all devices. Initial scale equals 1 sets the initial zoom level when the page is first loaded. This combination ensures your site is mobile friendly and adapts to different screen sizes, which is essential for a good user experience.
Yeah, I noticed that it adapts pretty well. The visual element, yeah, I'm really happy with. It's just the audio is kind of screwed up.
I'm glad the visual aspect is working well. We can definitely focus on sorting out the audio issues. Sometimes audio problems come from how the audio context is handled or how the user interactions are set up. Once we dive back into the script, we'll troubleshoot the audio logic and get everything running smoothly.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. That's going to be in the JavaScript section, which is going to be a beast. Well, anyway, moving on. You ready for line 6?
Absolutely, I'm ready for line 6. Let's keep this momentum going.
So line 6 is title in chevrons. Then it says browser space metronome, which is the title of the page, and I see displaying at the top of the page. And then it has a title inside chevrons, but with a forward slash after the first chevron. And I get that. Like those are the tags. So like I get that. Like I you don't have to tell me like why there's chevrons there or why there's like a slash there. So I think when I read the next ones, I'm gonna say there's a tag named title and there's an end tag or I'll abbreviate that because I feel like I'm not confused about what those symbols mean. I guess the only thing would be like why does doc type HTML have a chevron and then an exclamation point and no other tags do? I guess that's one thing. But like even that, it's just it's just how the language was written, the semantics, right? It indicates that it's starting the HTML document.
Exactly, you've got it. The exclamation point doctype HTML is just a declaration to tell the browser what version of HTML to expect, and the exclamation point is part of that declaration syntax. It's not an actual HTML element, so it doesn't need a closing tag. And yes, feel free to abbreviate or skip over the basics of the tags and structure since you're comfortable with that part. We'll keep focusing on the elements that are new or tricky for you and build up from there.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even notice that. Yeah, it doesn't have a closing tag. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. So yeah. The browser metronome line 6. Yeah, let's move on to the next line because that's pretty self-explanatory to me.
Sounds good. Let's move on to line 7 and see what's next in your HTML file.
Okay, so line 7 is opening a tag for HTML tag and it says style, lowercase style.
Got it. The style tag is where you'll include CSS rules directly within your HTML file. Anything you put between the opening style and closing style tags will apply to the HTML elements on your page. This is useful for defining the look and feel of your page, such as layout, colors, fonts, and other styling details. It's a handy way to keep your styles organized and easy to manage.
Is there like a because I know that style is CSS. I know that script is JavaScript. Is there like a open chevron Python closed chevron tag where you can just write Python on the page?
Not exactly. Browsers don't natively run Python like they do JavaScript. You typically use Python on the server side, for example with frameworks like Django or Flask, to generate HTML, and then the browser runs JavaScript for client-side interactivity. However, there are tools like PyScript that let you embed Python code in HTML and run it in the browser by converting it to WebAssembly behind the scenes. It's not as seamless or universal as script for JavaScript, but it's an interesting way to run Python in the browser if you need it. Still, for most web development tasks, JavaScript is the standard for client-side scripting.
Why isn't Python baked in?
The main reason is historical and practical. When the web was first developed, JavaScript was designed specifically to add interactivity to web pages and became the standard. Browsers optimized for JavaScript over the years, and a huge ecosystem of tools, frameworks, and libraries grew around it. Integrating another language like Python natively would require all browsers to support it, which is a massive effort and unlikely to happen given how entrenched JavaScript is. Additionally, JavaScript is designed to run in a highly asynchronous environment, which aligns well with how the web works.
Oh.
Python, of course. Let me know if there's
Oh,
anything else you'd
sorry,
like.
sorry. What you said there really resonated with me because I know that Python isn't natively designed for asynchronous functions the same way as other languages. So I just said oh because I like what you said resonated with me. But please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries at all. I'm glad that resonated with you. So, because of these differences and the strong ecosystem around JavaScript, it remains the go-to language for client-side scripting. But the web is always evolving, and there are always new ways to integrate other languages like Python through tools and transpilers. If you ever want to explore running Python in the browser, there are some exciting options out there. But for now, JavaScript remains the primary choice.
Isn't Node what's the language that is best for async? Is it I thought like Node.js was it, but Node.js is just it's just a part of like what is Node.js?
Node.js is a runtime environment that allows you to run JavaScript on the server side. It uses the V8 engine, the same one that powers Google Chrome, to execute JavaScript code outside of a browser. One of the reasons Node.js is so popular for asynchronous tasks is its non-blocking, event-driven architecture. This means that operations like reading files, querying databases, or making network requests can happen in the background without blocking the main thread. This makes it very efficient and scalable, especially for I/O-heavy applications. While other languages like Python, Go, and Rust.
Boring. Let's move on. This is too boring for me.
No problem, let's switch gears. What would you like to dive into next?
Line 8. So line 8 it just says lowercase body with an open curly brace after the style tag.
Great, that means you're starting a CSS rule for the body element. By putting body curly brace after the open style tag, you're indicating that the following lines will define how the entire body of the page should be styled. For example, you might set the background color, font, or margins for the entire page. Once you're done defining the styles for the body, you'll close the curly brace and move on to styling other elements or adding more rules.
Cool, I like that. That's useful for me to know. So the next line, line 9, says font dash family colon sans dash serif and then a semicolon.
Awesome! Setting font family sans serif ensures that the entire page will use a sans serif font by default. Sans serif fonts are clean and modern looking, and they don't have the small projecting features serifs at the ends of strokes, making text easier to read on screens. It's a common default choice for web design because it looks good across different devices and screen sizes. This way, you set a consistent and clean typographic style for your entire page right from the start.
Oh, interesting. So I'm reading the MDN page, and I'm just trying to see like all the different fonts they have, right? I just want to see like what's available to me.
That's a great idea. The MDN page on font family should give you a comprehensive list of common font options and how to specify fallback fonts. Typically, you'll see generic family names like sans serif, serif, monospace, and more. You can also specify specific fonts like Arial, Helvetica, or Times New Roman, and list fallbacks in case the preferred font isn't available on the user's system. If you want more custom or unique fonts, you can also explore web fonts like Google Fonts, which can be easily included in your project for more variety and creativity in your design.
Yeah, I checked out the fantasy font. So like what is the definitive source for knowing Like when you have the style tag, then you have a CSS element or whatever. So I have body. I don't know what you would call that. But then you have within that font family. I don't know what you would call that either. Is that like a key value pair? Like how would you know how what's their definitive source for knowing like what you can put inside a style tag?
Great questions. In CSS, the part like body is called a selector because it selects which HTML elements the rules apply to. Inside the curly braces, you have declarations, which are key value pairs defining specific styles. For example, font family is the property, the key, and sans serif is the value. For a definitive source, the Mozilla Developer Network MDN is one of the best resources for all things related to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It provides comprehensive documentation on all CSS properties, values, and best practices. It also includes examples and browser compatibility tables. Another key resource is the official CSS specifications from the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, but MDN is more user-friendly and practical for everyday use. So when in doubt, MDN is a fantastic place to look up what you can put inside a style tag and how different properties and values work.
All right, so it's a selector and a declaration.
Exactly. In CSS, what you have there is a selector and a declaration. The selector, body in this case, specifies which HTML elements you want to style, and the declaration, font family sans serif, defines what styles to apply to those elements. Selectors target the HTML elements you want to style, and declarations inside curly braces define the property and value pairs. Together, they form the rules that determine how your web page looks and feels.
Okay, and where do I find what selectors are available?
You can use a wide variety of selectors in CSS. Some of the most common ones include element selectors, target all instances of a specific HTML element, like body, P, or H1. Class
Yeah,
selectors,
but well, hold on. But how do you know that? Like, where did you look up the selectors?
I learned about selectors from comprehensive documentation sources like the Mozilla Developer Network, MDN. The MDN Web Docs is a fantastic resource for all things related to web development, including CSS selectors. They offer detailed explanations, examples, and best practices for using different types of selectors effectively. If you want to explore all the selectors available, MDN CSS Reference is a great place to start. It covers everything from basic selectors to more advanced ones like attribute selectors, pseudo classes, and pseudo elements.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Yeah, I was in the HTML section, so now switching to the CSS MDN reference, I can actually click on the CSS selectors section, and yeah, they just list out all the selectors in a bullet point.
Exactly. That section is super handy. It gives you a clear overview of all the different selectors you can use, along with examples and explanations. This makes it easy to find the right selector for whatever element or group of elements you want to style. It's a great resource to have bookmarked for quick reference as you work on your styling.
Okay, but this is throwing me for a loop. I don't see the body selector anywhere.
I see what you mean. The MDN list typically focuses on more specialized or complex selectors. The body selector is an example of a basic element selector, which is so fundamental that it might not be explicitly listed in a summary of selectors. Element selectors like body, P, div, and H1 are the simplest type of selectors and are used to target all instances of that element on the page. The MDN reference assumes familiarity with these basic selectors and focuses on more advanced or less intuitive ones. So while body might not appear in that specific list, it's still one of the most commonly used and fundamental selectors in CSS.
Well, that's stupid. I want to use a documentation that has a wider scope then, because like I didn't even know the term selector. Like I need the basic documentation.
I get that. It can be frustrating when documentation assumes prior knowledge. For a more beginner-friendly, comprehensive resource, you might want to check out something like W3 Schools. They cover the basics and advanced topics side by side and explain concepts like selectors from the ground up. MDN is fantastic for in-depth details, but W3 Schools might give you a smoother learning curve if you're starting out or looking for a more gradual introduction. Let me know if you'd like a link or any more guidance on where to find that info.
Yeah, I've heard of W3 schools. That's yeah, this W3 schools is really solid. Yeah, I see their CSS selectors section. Let's see if they have body there.
Great! W3 Schools is a solid choice for straightforward, beginner-friendly explanations. You should definitely find the body selector and other fundamental ones there, along with clear examples and interactive tutorials to practice with. That should make it much easier to get a solid grasp of how to use these selectors as you build out your CSS rules.
They don't have body either.
That's interesting. Even though they might not explicitly list body as a separate example, it's because body is just a basic element selector and they assume you know you can select any HTML element this way. The focus is often on more complex selectors because those are the ones people tend to look up. But the same principles apply. If you want to style the body element, you can just use body as the selector. It's as straightforward as that, and it's a good foundational concept that might not always be highlighted in selector lists.
All right, so I got to take a break. I'll be back shortly. All right, I'm back. So let's keep talking to the AI. All right, I'm back. I had to take a quick break.
Welcome back. No worries at all. Let me know what you'd like to tackle next, or if you want to pick up where we left off.
Man, all of this gets very complicated fast. Let's move on to line 10. We were on line 9 before, right?
Absolutely, it can get intricate pretty fast. Let's keep it simple and continue with line 10.
Yeah, because I'm seeing selector specificity. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, specificity is a key concept in CSS. It determines which styles are applied when multiple rules target the same element. The more specific a selector, the higher priority it has. For example, an ID selector is more specific than a class selector, which in turn is more specific than an element selector. Understanding specificity helps you write more predictable and maintainable CSS, ensuring that the right styles are applied where you want them.
All right. Well, anyways, line 10 says margin colon 0 semicolon padding colon 2 rem semicolon.
Perfect. This line is setting the margin and padding for the entire body element. By specifying margin 0, you're removing any default margin the browser might apply, ensuring the content starts flush at the edges. Setting padding 2 rem adds some space inside the body, giving the content a bit of breathing room around the edges. Using 2 rem means the padding will be twice the size of the root element's font size, making it scalable and responsive. Overall, these styles help create a clean and consistent layout baseline for your page.
All right. The next line says background colon, and then it has a hexadecimal number. It's white, and then it says semicolon color colon, and then it has pound sign 333 showing black, and then a semicolon. This part I feel like is pretty self-explanatory.
Exactly, you've got it. The background hexadecimal 555 sets the page background to white, and the color 333 sets the text color to a dark gray. This combination is a common choice because it provides a clean, high contrast look that's easy on the eyes and works well for readability. These simple but effective styles help set a neutral, professional tone for your page. Let me know if you want to go further or if you have any other questions.
All right, so let's move to the next line, line 12. It says display colon flex semicolon, flex dash direction, colon column, semicolon, align dash items, colon center, semicolon.
Great, these styles are setting up a Flexbox layout for the body. Display Flex enables the Flexbox layout model, making it easier to align and distribute space among items. Flex Direction Column arranges the flex items, in this case your page content, in a vertical column. Align Items Center centers the flex items horizontally within the body. These properties together help center your content on the page, giving it a neat and organized appearance, especially useful for a single column layout like a metronome interface.
Cool. The next one, so then line 13 is the end curly brace, which, I understand. I'm not starting from zero, and I consider myself to be to have employable professional skills in Python, so I know what it means to I know why there's curly braces.
Got it. Since you're comfortable with these concepts, we can move on to the next part of the document or dive into any specific area you'd like to explore more deeply. Just let me know what's next on your list.
Well, hold on. Look, let me refresh me what the term was. So that word body, that's the selector, and then so it's the descriptor. So the curly brace here ends the descriptor code.
Close. The term you're looking for is declaration block. The body is the selector, and everything inside the curly braces is the declaration block. Each line inside the declaration block, like margin 0 or padding 2 rem, is a declaration that specifies a property and its value. So in summary, the body selector targets the body element, and the declaration block enclosed in curly braces defines all the styles applied to it.
Oh, that's right. So there's the selector and then the declaration.
Exactly. You've got it. The selector identifies which elements to style, and the declaration block specifies what styles to apply. Each declaration within the block is a property value pair that determines how the selected elements are rendered. You're building a solid understanding of how CSS works.
Yeah, I see that in the documentation. There's the selector, and then and you can and then there's a declaration as well. But the declaration block is all the code in between the curly braces, and you can have multiple declarations inside of a single declaration block.
Exactly right. You can have multiple declarations inside one declaration block, each defining a different property for the same selector. This way, you can set multiple styles like margin, padding, background, and color all at once for the same element. It's a neat and organized way to keep all related styles together.
I'm taking the quiz.
Nice. The quizzes can be a great way to reinforce what you've learned and make sure everything's clicking. Let me know how it goes or if any questions come up that you want to discuss.
Ah, fuck the quiz. It's not working.
No worries. Sometimes those online quizzes can be glitchy. If there's anything specific you want to clarify or test your understanding on, feel free to ask. We can go over any topics or do a quick review together.
All right, so let's move on to line 14. So line 14 has another selector. Then it opens. Then it has another declaration block, and there's only one declaration inside the declaration block. The declaration is margins dash bottom colon 1.5 rem semicolon.
Got it. It sounds like you're styling another element, and you've set a margin bottom of 1.5 rem. This gives the selected element some space below it, which can help create a more visually pleasing and readable layout by ensuring elements aren't too close together. Using relative units like rem ensures that your spacing scales nicely with the root font size, making your design more responsive and adaptable.
Cool. So line 15 has another selector. This is a dot and then controls. And then it starts the declaration block with an open paren, curly brace. I mean, not a paren, a curly brace.
Great. The dot before controls indicates that this is a class selector, so the styles inside this declaration block will apply to any element with the class controls. Using classes like this allows you to target specific groups of elements and style them consistently. It's a flexible way to apply styles to multiple elements without having to repeat code or rely on element types alone.
What does the dot do again?
The dot is what indicates that you're selecting a class. In CSS, a period
Oh.
or dot before a name means you're targeting all elements that have that class. For example, controls will apply the specified styles to any HTML element with the class controls. This is different from an element selector, which targets all instances of a specific HTML tag, like body or p. Using class selectors lets you apply styles more selectively and reuse the same styles across different elements.
Okay, so now I think I understand why. So I understand where that body selector comes from and how you know how to use the body selector. Because within the style tag, the default body selectors you have to work with are or or the default selectors you have to work with, whether they're the body selector or not, are the HTML tag names.
Exactly. By default, you can use any HTML tag name as a selector within the style tag. This means you can directly target elements like body, p, h1, div, and so forth. These are known as type selectors or element selectors, and they allow you to apply styles to all instances of that element throughout the page. This foundational concept makes it easy to get started with CSS by letting you style HTML elements directly. As you get more comfortable, you can combine these with class and ID selectors, as well as more advanced selectors to create more complex and specific styling rules.
Got it. Okay, yeah, this is useful. This is really helping me understand this. Okay, you ready for line 16?
I'm glad it's helpful. Absolutely. Let's move on to line 16. What's next?
So this is a declaration block, part of the dot control selector. It's width colon 100% semicolon max dash width colon 700 px semicolon.
Great. So this part sets the width of elements with the controls class to 100% of their container, but limits the maximum width to 700 pixels. This means the element will be responsive. It will take up the full width of its container on smaller screens, but won't exceed 700 px on larger screens. This is a common technique to ensure that elements look good and remain readable on various devices and screen sizes.
Love it. All right. So line 17, display colon flex semicolon flex dash direction colon column semicolon gap colon 1.5 rem semicolon.
Awesome. These styles are setting up a flexible layout for the elements with the controls class. Display flex turns the element into a flex container, which makes it easier to align and distribute space among its child elements. Flex direction column arranges the child elements in a vertical column instead of the default horizontal row. Gap 1.5 rem adds spacing between the flex items, making the layout more visually appealing and easier to read. Overall, these properties create a neat, vertical stack of elements with consistent spacing, which is great for form controls or grouped interface elements.
Got it. Okay. And then line 18 is the curly brace that ends the declaration block for the dot controls selector.
Perfect. That closes out the styles for the controls class. Now you've got a nicely styled, flexible container with a maximum width and consistent spacing between its items. If there's anything else you want to cover or any other lines you want to go through, just let me know.
Well, we're going through line by line. So next line is 19. We've got close to 700 lines to get through.
Got it, we've got a good pace going. Let's dive into line 19 and keep it rolling. What's next in the code?
It says field set dot section, and then it has a open curly brace.
Great, this is a more specific selector that targets any field set element with the class section. By combining the element field set and the class section, you're applying styles specifically to those field sets that have the section class. This gives you more control and lets you style these elements differently from other field sets on the page. Let's see what styles are defined inside that declaration block.
All right, so line 20, background colon pound sign FFF, semicolon border colon none semicolon.
Nice. This sets the background of any field set section to white and removes its border. By doing this, you're giving those field sets a clean and seamless look, which can help integrate them more smoothly into the overall design. It's a simple but effective way to style specific sections without extra visual clutter.
All right, next one is border dash radius colon 8px semicolon. And I'll read the rest of these lines to you. Next one is box dash shadow colon 0 space 2px space 6px RGBA open paren 00001, all separated by commas. Oh, sorry. Actually, it's 0 comma 0 comma 0 comma 0.1 end paren semicolon, and then the last line 23 in this declaration block is padding colon 1 rem semicolon, and then line 24 is the end of the declaration block.
Great! These styles give your field set section a polished look. Border radius 8px rounds the corners of the field set, making it look softer and more modern. Box shadow 02px 6px RGBA 000 adds a subtle shadow, giving the field set a slight lift and depth, making it stand out from the background. Padding 1 rem ensures there's some internal spacing, so the content inside the field set doesn't touch the edges, making it look cleaner and more organized. Altogether, these styles help create a visually appealing and well-structured section on your page.
All right, so the next selector on line 25 is legend, and line 25 also has the entire declaration block because there's only two declarations in it. The first one is font dash weight colon bold, and the next one is padding colon 0 space 0.5 rem.
Great! These styles target the legend element, which is typically used to caption or describe the contents of a field set. Font weight bold makes the text inside the legend bold, giving it more emphasis and making it stand out as a heading. Padding 0,05 rem adds horizontal padding of 0.5 rem, giving the text a bit of space from the sides. This helps it look more visually distinct and properly spaced within the field set. These simple adjustments enhance the appearance and readability of the legend, ensuring it aligns nicely with the overall design.
Perfect. Yeah, and I see that legend doesn't require a dot in front of it because legend is actually a native HTML tag. It's not like a, class equals or something like that. It's a HTML tag itself.
Exactly. Since legend is a standard HTML element, you can select it directly by its tag name without needing a dot. The dot is only used for classes, and a hash symbol is used for IDs. This makes it straightforward to apply styles to all instances of a particular element, like legend, across your entire page.
Got it. All right, so now I can start going a bit faster through some of these because I'm starting to catch on. Are you ready for line 26?
Absolutely. Let's keep up the momentum. What's on line 26?
All right, I'm going to give you lines 26 through 29. So on line 26, it's the selector is dot group, which selects a class. Then we have the open curly brace to start the declaration block. The declaration block has one, two, three, four, five declarations in it. The first declaration is display colon flex, then flex dash wrap colon wrap, then gap colon 1 rem, then align dash items colon center, then margin dash top colon 0.5 rem.
Awesome! These styles for the dot group class set up a flexible and neatly spaced layout. Display flex makes the element a flex container, enabling a flexible box layout for its children. Flex wrap allows the flex items to wrap onto multiple lines if there's not enough space, ensuring they don't get squished. Gap 1 rem adds a consistent space between the flex items, making the layout more visually appealing. Align item center vertically centers the flex items within the container, ensuring a neat and aligned appearance. Margin top 0.5 rem adds a little extra space above the GOT group elements, helping to separate them from whatever is above and enhancing readability. These properties together create a clean and flexible layout that's easy to maintain and visually balanced.
Awesome. Okay, so now we got some wild ones here. So I'll take it one line at a time. We'll start with line 30.
All right, let's tackle line 30. What's going on there?
So it says dot group just like it did on line 26. So that's the selector, I assume. But then there's no declaration block. There's no curly braces. All it has is dot group space label and then a comma.
Ah, I see what's happening. This is part of a group selector. The dot group label means it's targeting label elements that are inside any element with the group class, and the comma indicates that there's at least one more selector that will share the same declaration block. So this line is just the start of a multi-selector rule. The actual declarations will follow after all the selectors are listed. This way, you can apply the same styles to multiple selectors at once, keeping your CSS concise and organized.
Okay, so you need that statement on line 26 because you're going to apply that declaration block to the dot to the group class wholesale, but then on line 30 we're going to specifically modify some attributes of the specific attributes of the group class. We're going to start with the label. And then there's more modifications. Line 31 modifies button. Then line 32 select. Then line 33 it gets even crazier. It's dot groups space input open bracket now type equals number wrapped in single quotes close bracket comma. So then we've got the same syntax but for range and checkbox, and then the declaration box is follows.
Exactly, you've got it. By listing all these selectors together and separating them with commas, you're applying the same set of styles to all of these elements. This approach is efficient and ensures consistent styling for all these related form controls. This way, you maintain a uniform look and feel for labels, buttons, select elements, and specific types of inputs within the group class, making your CSS more organized and easier to manage. It also helps keep your code dry, don't repeat yourself, by grouping selectors that share the same styling rules.
Oh yeah, DRY dry. Yeah, yeah. Don't repeat yourself. Yeah, I've heard of that. That's a best practice for coding, right?
Exactly, it's a core principle in coding. Keeping your code dry helps reduce redundancy, makes maintenance easier, and minimizes the chances of errors. By grouping selectors and sharing styles, you keep your CSS more streamlined and easier to manage as your project grows.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, then's the declaration block. There's one, two, three, four, five declarations within the declaration block. I don't think I have to read all of them. Let's just move on.
Sounds good. As long as you're comfortable with the overall structure and concepts, we can definitely keep moving forward. Just let me know if there's anything specific you want to dive deeper into, or if you're ready to move on to the next part.
I'm feeling good with all of this. I understand that there's selectors, there's declaration blocks. I understand that selectors that don't start with a dot are HTML tags. Ones that do start with a dot are the names of a class attribute given to an HTML tag, and then the ones that start with a pound sign are the ID given to a HTML tag.
Exactly, you've summed it up perfectly. You've got a solid grasp of the key concepts. With this understanding, you'll be able to navigate and write CSS with more confidence. If you feel ready, we can move on to other aspects of your code or tackle any new topics you're curious about.
Yeah, let's move on from CSS because it's pretty clear to me now. I know how to look things up more or less. So yeah, we can move on.
Awesome, I'm glad you're feeling confident with CSS. What would you like to dive into next?
So next is the body section, and this is another one that I feel like pretty like it kind of doesn't matter to well, actually there are some things I'm really curious about in this section.
Sure thing. The body section can have a lot of interesting and important elements. Feel free to point out what you're curious about, and we can explore those details together.
Okay, the code is starting to make more sense to me now.
That's great to hear. It all starts to click once you see how the different pieces fit together. If there's anything specific you want to dive deeper into, or any other parts of the code you want to walk through, just let me know.
Yeah, the HTML I understand a lot better than the CSS because the CSS like that concept of a selector and a declaration block with declarations inside that can be a little bit tricky to check onto like for people new to CSS like having a selector be like body, it's like, oh well, where did body come from? How did it know how did you know you could use body there? And so you have to know that what the selector does. It selects elements on the page either via HTML tag or via attributes passed to an HTML HTML tag, and then you have to know what can go into the declaration blocks, and to do that you have to reference the documentation.
Exactly, you've broken it down well. CSS can be a bit abstract at first because it relies on understanding how selectors and declarations interact with HTML elements. Once you get the hang of it and know where to find the right references, it becomes much easier to apply styles effectively. HTML tends to be more straightforward since it's all about the structure and content, while CSS handles the presentation layer, which can be more nuanced. You're on the right track.
Oh, presentation layer, you triggered me because I'm a network engineer, so please do not throw sausage pizza away. The OSI model, physical data link, network, transport, then it's session, uh, presentation, and application. Is that what you meant when you said that, or is that completely unrelated?
Haha, I see what you mean. In this context, the presentation layer refers to the front end or visual layer of a web application, dealing with how content is styled and presented to users. It's not related to the OSI model's presentation layer, which deals with data translation and encryption in networking. But I totally get how that could trigger the MoSI association for a network engineer like you.
Yeah, and then even worse, it's like you have seven layers of the OSI model, but then it's like so we were made to like that's like a key question on the like CCNA and stuff. But nobody's using the OSI model. They're using the TCP/IP model, which only has like four or five layers depending on something. So it's like it's just networking is a confusing world. And then doesn't ISIS, intermediate system, doesn't that use the OSI model still?
Yeah, networking can definitely get complex, especially when you have overlapping models and concepts. The OSI model is still a fundamental framework for understanding networking concepts and protocols, even though the TCP/IP model is more commonly used in practice. ISIS, intermediate system to intermediate system, does indeed align more closely with the OSI model, as it was originally designed as an OSI protocol. It operates at layer 3, the network layer of the OSI model, and uses CLON's connectionless network service addressing. Over time, though, ISIS has been adapted to support IP routing, making it useful in both OSI and TCP/IP environments. So while the OSI model might not be the go-to for implementation, it's still a valuable reference for understanding how different protocols and technologies fit together.
All right, well, moving on. So line 53 was body wrapped in chevrons. Then line 54 is H1 wrapped in a chevron, then browser space metronome, and then open chevron forward slash H1 close chevron. Line 55, open chevron div space CLASS equals controls wrapped in quotes and chevron. 56 field set class equals section. So like it, am I using like what language can I use? Because when I was reading the CSS, it was hard for me. Like I didn't know, like you heard yourself, right? Like as I became more familiar with it, I was able to say like, oh, now we've got a selector named this that is pointing to an HTML tag or pointing to a HTML class attribute given to an HTML tag or an ID. And then we have a declaration block with five declarations. So like, help me like evolve with my language for reading this HTML.
Absolutely. Defining your terminology can definitely help make reading and discussing code more intuitive. When describing HTML, you can break it down into these common elements and terms. Elements and tags. These are the building blocks of HTML. For example, H1 is an element defined by an opening tag H1 and a closing tag XH1. Tags mark the beginning and end of an element. Attributes, these provide additional information about elements. For example, in div class equals controls, class is an attribute that gives the div element a class name. Content, this is the text or other elements nested inside an HTML element. For example, in H1 browser metronome H1, browser metronome is the content. Hierarchy and nesting, HTML elements can be nested inside each other. For instance, a div with a class of controls might contain multiple field set elements. Selectors and declaration blocks, when discussing CSS, you'd refer to selectors like H1 or dot controls and the associated declaration blocks that define the styles for those selectors. As you can
Oh shoot, are you still there? Oh, we hit our time limit. It only lets you have an hour with it. but you can restart it. You can just start a new conversation and you get your time back. You get an hour again. But I'm feeling pretty good about all of this. So I think I might end the video here. That was very useful for CSS because it got me looking at the right page, W3 schools, versus that CDN one. That's not very useful. And yeah, the JavaScript one is going to be. So I feel like what I'm going to do is yeah, I'm going to end the video. And T-body, what the hell is that? But I'm gonna end the video, and when I come back, I think I what I'll do is just go right to the JavaScript because that's gonna be that's gonna be the really difficult part. And when it comes to troubleshooting these bugs, of which I've got plenty in the code, um, if the thing that's going to solve them is editing the JavaScript. So that's going to be it for this video. And in another video, um, I'll come back and go right to the JavaScript section. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one.